You are. Okay, so welcome to Teachers Teaching Teachers. It is the 17th of June, and I really, really appreciate those of you who are here, and a few more are coming. And so many people said, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much work I have, or this is my one moment between now and summer school when I don't have to work. So I thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Marina Lombardo has, this has been your last day of school, correct? So everyone, if you remember your last day of school, it's like, yeah, it's nice that it's done, but it's like meeting after meeting and like, did you sign this?
That's true.
And it's like, anyway. So again, thank you so much for on your last day coming to show us some work that is based on a National Writing Project collection page that is called Kid Writing, right? But let's quickly go around and do other introductions here. I do not teach in elementary school, so there. Marina, where do you teach? And we'll come back to you at the end.
I'm in Westchester County in New York, and I teach 3rd grade. And yeah, today was the last day for me, but yesterday was my last day with my kids. So I'm still kind of very emotional about it, the ending of it all. But
do you get the loop at all? Do you know or not? Do you get to see them next year? Is there any possibility?
Well, it's a very, very small school, so I'll still see them certainly, but no looping. So I'm gonna have a whole new crop of 3rd graders coming in.
Cool. Rich, you're next on my screen. Introduction, quick introduction.
Marina, I'm excited to hear about your last day. Today was my last day, although I'm a high school English teacher, so I didn't have to interact with any students since last week, really. Although, I haven't. In fact, I got to grade something for tomorrow and do a grade change. So, that might trickle in a little bit, but it is nice to be done.
Cool. Tanya.
Hi, I'm Tanya Baker, and I'm the Director of National Programs at the National Writing Project, and I worked on the Kid Writing website that we're going to hear how you use, Marina, so I'm really excited about that. And I feel like I should also say hi, Rich, because I've been in national parks work and write out all day today, and I've been thinking about you. So nice to see you.
Oh, no, it's good to see you. Yeah, yeah. And some legislation coming through, too. So check out the news tonight about national parks.
And nice. It's appropriate you're outside. So there you go. Yeah.
Totally by accident. My kids are in my room right now. So
Stephanie, did you go paint yet, or are you still here?
I'm on my way to go paint. I just thought I would clock in and say hello. I'm glad to see a nice turnout, and I'm excited to watch this later. So I'm a high school teacher from way back, English language arts. So writing is in my blood, but 8-year-olds not so much.
So introduce the person next to you here.
Well, I'm guessing on your screen, the person next to me is my daughter, Caty Mae Loomis, who just completed her first year as a 3rd grade teacher in Smyrna, Georgia.
Yeah.
The unforgettable first year. So I will turn it over to Caty Mae, and I will get back to work and have a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, so I'm Caty Mae. I teach in Smyrna, like my mom said, right outside of Atlanta. It was my first full year, and it was wild. So here we go. On to round 2, I guess.
Say more. Why was it wild?
Well, just for being a first year teacher is wild anyway. Yeah, and then with just the whole pandemic situation. March 13th was the last day that I saw my kids. So we went to the online stuff, which was just wild. So it was an adjustment, and it was.
I get it.
Tested my flexibility as a teacher for sure.
That's not normal. Just so you know.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping this
first
is a
year.
one-time.
I'm gonna give you that, because that's a rough first year. That Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can do everything normal next year and get back to, life as it should be in schools.
Cool.
Not online.
So Katie negotiated that she was going to leave her camera off, but if you change your mind, feel free. But it's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not sure.
It's fine. It's fine. But you'll just have to yell if you want to say something.
Okay, we'll do.
Good. Christina.
Excuse me. I was inspired by Rich to go outside because it actually is a gorgeous night here. And so I'm Christina Cantrell, National Writing Project, and I have a glowing cat eye shirt on.
Yes, you do. In the dark against that wall.
I know.
Cool. Welcome.
Thank you.
Peggy, do you want to say hello or not? We give her a chance. Oh, okay. You'll see her in the chat. Let's jump in. I think a couple of other people might be coming, but great that all of you are here. Marina, what'd you do?
Well,
Wait,
so I guess it wasn't, I didn't even realize it was in May during that meeting until I saw the email that you put out describing just tonight's topic and theme. So in May, you had elementary teachers and librarians together. We were all sharing kind of like how distance learning was going for all of us. And then the kid writing document was shared. And as we were going through it and reviewing it, I was just, I just really got stuck on this one cycle. I think they were called cycles that was developed around seeds. And I think that, I've been teaching for 15 years. This year I just came out of a middle school setting. So I was teaching 5th grade in a middle school setting where I was departmentalized. And I had really wanted to go back to being a generalist where I had my kids all day because I always, I always honor the importance of building the community. And not that I wasn't doing that in the departmentalization, but I kind of wanted them all day and I wanted to see them through math and science and all of that. So that's before I go into rambling mode. So I started looking.
by the way, hi, Judy. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi.
Sorry.
So I started going through the document, which started that evening, but then I started to say this holds exciting potential for my students. I think that it doesn't matter what grade that I teach, along with the community piece. I always like to try to have something towards the end of the year that brings the children all together, something that they can share, created together. And something that kind of binds them together. Like I said, I'm in a really small school, so with only 2 sections, so they still see each other quite a bit, but they're going to be moving on from me too, so I'm part of that community. So I just wanted it to be something, especially with everything we were going through. So I just was like, let me see how this goes. And I started to do some guided drawing with them during a live meeting. And I just really kind of started to talk them through the idea of developing their own plant that they would contribute to a community garden that would be a unique design of their own. That they felt that the class needed, but also that honored their own personality and their individuality. And we kind of just talked through coming up with, what they felt this garden would need. So this hypothetical garden. It also worked out perfectly because we were finishing the year with perimeter and so we could weave in those math concepts. And what happened that day was.
By the way, I just want to. I'm interrupting for no good reason.
Yeah, no, interrupt me because I go in rambling mode because I get excited. And
did everyone hear that? So please feel free to interrupt. I can ask you this: can you give me a picture of for somebody who this was easy for and somebody it was difficult for? coming up with the plant idea?
In
that-
terms of just sharing that out.
Yeah. Like
Oh,
you said you had them think together.
Mm-hmm.
Was it easy for everybody? Was it hard for some?
Mm-mm. Some of them kind of like went right to that whole idea of something. I did show them actually the models in the document, and I think one of them is like the pizza plant, and then another one kind of had this like really nice fairy tale like viney kind of. I just don't remember the name of it. So it all started with me. It could be something that has to do with like emotions. It could be something that has to do with a unique food. It could be something interesting. And of course, a lot of them, they go for food, but they were creative food. So like one of them came up with the waffle plant or the nacho cheese plant. And then we had some kids that were like the kindness plant and the awesome plant. And we had a money plant too. And I modeled with like positivity seeds. So we kind of just had this first day where they were just kind of like drawing out ideas. And that was really, really nice. On paper. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I just said like, go get your notebooks and we're going to do this on paper. And you're just going to have, so there was quiet moments and just me interrupting and asking some questions and thinking through this. And I did it too. So I was sketching it out on paper as well with them. And what was really fun about it is that I heard some voices that I hadn't heard in a long time. What I have struggled with a bit during all of this is that, I have a pretty standard practice of a community circle pretty much almost every day in the classroom. And it's difficult to have an organic conversation with children, in this type of setting. So some of the voices that I always heard a lot of during the school year, I wasn't hearing as much. And I don't know if that's because of we have to mute or it's not our turn to mute, like all of that kind of stuff that just doesn't feel, it kind of sounds harsh when you're saying like mute yourself or, I don't know if it was that, but what I do know is that, like I said, there were some kids that they were using their thumbs up symbol because they were like, I've got something to share and I want to share. And that's exactly what I wanted. I really, through all of this, I wanted to make sure that the work and that I was giving the children was not compliance based, where they were just doing it because they were supposed to do it because it's school, or not doing it because they weren't doing it or they didn't have the access to it. I wanted them to, just like I would do in the classroom, try to like want to do something. It excited them. It honored their creativity, but also could be tied in what they really needed to do anyway. Like they needed to learn about perimeter. They still need to work on their descriptive writing. And this was a great time for them to do it. So I wanted it just to be the seed packet idea. And then it became something else where it almost like evolved into like these how-to books about these seeds that they created.
Can I check with Katie about community and connecting with?
Yeah, yes, please.
Katie, do you have any reflections on that? I can't see you, so it's hard to know. Yeah. I'm putting you on the spot, so feel free to say, no, I don't have anything to say.
Well, I was just thinking I just put this in the chat, but we do a unit on plant adaptations. So I think that like this could be something cool to like weave into that kind of unit also. Mm-hmm. We do something similar, but this could be like another way to include writing into that science unit.
Hey, Katie, I'm also asking you though, how did it go with you in terms of like, did you talk to your kids online? How did the community building continue?
Oh yeah, we still did we had our Zoom meetings and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was challenging for sure to kind of keep that community, especially since some of my kids couldn't get online, but we did what we could in terms of meeting once or twice a week. And then I would also have like small groups meet. So that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of that time though wasn't it wasn't like really dedicated to content. It was more of just like I'm here for you. Let's like chat with each other. Just so that they wouldn't go crazy at home alone.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So do you want to jump in and show some stuff or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure. Oops. Okay.
You are sharing. Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So again, a few weeks ago, and I apologize, Paul, because I know I was talking to you and I forgot the name of the teacher that was speaking and very highly about the book creator platform.
Oh.
And he shared some of her students' work as well on this.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Anime.
Anime. Okay.
Who was one of the people who said, I really want to be there, but this is my one time to breathe between, you know, an intense semester and summer school, which starts next week, right? So anyway, yeah. So, but she was happy to hear that you picked up with what she presented. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had always heard about it, and then once I saw the work that she presented, it kind of like gave me that nudge to say like, let me try this. And then the more I was thinking about the idea that all of these books can live in the same spot was probably the right way to kind of like host it so that everybody could see each other's work. I actually just pulled a couple out into a personal library, but there are more. And what I think was the best part about this is that we had like drop-in sessions, like feedback sessions and drop-in sessions where kids were just like coming like during the day to work on their books, and kids were sharing their screen and discovering new things they learned about all this. But like I said, I did do the work with the kids, and I know that, you know, you don't really want to see my work, but
Yeah, we do. Go ahead.
No, but
did you show this to them?
I can start with it. Yeah, I did. But I was working with it with them too. So I was, and they always had a copy of mine in their personal space, right? So they could go back to mine. So what it looks like right now is kind of like what it's after like polishing it up, but I really wouldn't have it. It was kind of like messy, and it was different fonts and stuff like that. And I would say like, well, maybe I could try this. So I was really like, I was in the position where I was working through it with them. And then we all learned new things, like, and this was like something that was added after the fact, because I said to them like, oh, well, if everyone's going to read it, maybe we could put a dedication in too. But so they didn't get the whole book. It wasn't like they had this whole book that I wrote. They had pieces of it, and it was disorganized and it was out of order. And through all that, I kind of kept, just like I would do in the classroom, I kept modeling the process of revising it, making decisions, reevaluating, putting things in, taking things out. And I really kept stressing to them the importance of like, this doesn't have to be like Google Images. Like, you don't have to like worry about finding a picture, especially if you're making something up. You know, I have a lot of, just like so many children, like I have a lot of kids that love to tinker with things and make things and just like take random things and put them together. And I was showing them how like they can take photos and embed them, you know, and show different representations of what they think their plant may grow into or what it might look like. So we kind of thought about, and we thought about sections together. So, you know, there was no like rubric or anything attached to this. There wasn't anything that I planned out that I wanted them to do. It was more like, well, what do we think it could include? So a lot of the ideas really came from the kids, except for the math components, but we pretty much like tried to like all include like a how to plant, and then like a narrative, so how they were discovered, a fun fact. So like I just had these like random, and I remember like when I was in a small group, I was telling them why I did this, and I was like, well, everybody thinks that the positivity seeds look like rainbow sprinkles, but they really look like this. And then like, you know, they were like, oh. So And this
is
was
that
the
a
math
picture
part.
you took?
I'm sorry?
Are those seeds a picture you took, or how?
No, these are like cotton balls. They're like rainbow colored cotton
Oh,
balls.
I
I
see.
just took a
Sorry.
handful in my hand, and I like put a caption next to it saying like everybody thinks this, but
Okay.
and then this I mean, it truly was the math unit, and this led to like really good math conversations. Just the idea of how much space they have, and then what's the area of the space, and then not, you know, even though you know the area of the space, like how are you actually going to plant these seeds, like how much space do you need and everything like that. And that's just a fun page I was playing with, sorry. So I don't know, it's so hard like showing like something that you finished, because that's not really what the kids were seeing throughout the whole process.
We get that, but let's slow down for a second. Anybody have any thoughts or questions about Marina's book or presentation or thoughts here? No. Anybody there?
Well, I want to plus one what Peggy said in the chat, which is like this. I mean, I want to say first of all that I feel like this presentation, like we put some work out in the world. Judy, who joined after Marina, was also part of the team that put this kid writing site together. And so to see somebody take it up and adapt it and then make it work in their classroom is just a great treat on a Wednesday evening in the middle of a hard week to see this beautiful work. And one of the things that we wanted to do is create a site that parents could use with kids or teachers could use with kids, and that it could really be pretty elastic from like kindergartners to third graders. And I feel like I can't wait to see your kids' work, but I feel like you really captured and took up this idea of elasticity, that here was an assignment, but as you said, it wasn't like make sure you meet all these parts of the rubric, but rather here was an assignment that kids could stretch to fit their own areas of interest, their own personalities. They could like make crazy food plants, or they could make plants that would put some kind of like important idea into the world. And I love that you modeled it, which I'm sure they weren't at all surprised after spending a year with you, that you would model it with this example of making a positivity plant. And then the way that you kind of unpacked how to make a book and did it together over time and said, oh yeah, we could add a dedication, or, oh yeah, I can see people think this, and I'm gonna tell another story about my plant there, and how the assignment could kind of, in a very organic way, like a plant, grow in this way. I think it's lovely. So I guess I had a lot of things to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in? And then we'll look at some student work. Okay. Marina, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I selected a couple of them based on like little parts. So like this is.
Were you able to get rid of last names, by the way, or do we?
I took names off. I made copies, and I actually took the names off.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of my voices that I didn't hear for a while on those, big calls. And
can you read that to us?
Yes.
Good.
It says, oops, sorry.
I got this.
I'm waffle seed dropper man. So I love this because this child figured out how to include an image, how to modify and adjust the image, and then how to use drawing tools. So they added on to something, and they were so incredibly proud of this. They even said to me afterward, they were like, this is the best cover I've ever made. And I was so happy, like hearing that. Like it was like one of those things I shared with their family when I had the exit conversation, that to end off with something where someone was feeling like that made me feel really good for them. It totally captures who they are. And Yeah. So, and then I just wanted to show like the next page for this person is they just kind of had like, here's what the seed looks like. And like, I just love the integration of different things. There's text, there's an emoji with like a finger pointing. There's like another little image that's probably, from a Google search that's made so small. And then there's like a hand-drawn circle around it. You can't miss it. I also like, I picked these because of like, also not just the product, but the story with it, so that's the waffle seed. And then you could see on the flip side, we have like the pancake plant. So this kid was super into this work. And
wait, the plant makes pancakes?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I can go to their table of contents. So they developed a table of contents. And then you have pancake plant is a plant for everyone, is for people who need food and if you like to plant plants. And it is so fun because when it blooms, it turns into a pancake and you could eat it. So
blooms. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we have our like fun facts.
You could read those.
Oh, I mean, yeah, okay.
Take your time.
Here are some fun facts of the pancake plant. The pancake plant only takes 2 weeks to grow. 2, the seed actually sort of looks like a mini pancake too. 3, in the pancake, in the plant, it's not like a small pancake. It's a really big one. So, here's the good one. 6, in the pancake plant, there's petals that are made out of butter. So when you pick the pancake, if you would like butter, you could just spread the petal on the pancake, and then you can get a butter pancake.
Okay.
So I just like how they had a lot of fun with it. Here's some like math representation too, just thinking about what it would look like. But then the planning too. If you want your plants to be all smashed up and like don't grow well, then you can put 54 seeds, but I want to have a nice space so my area is 24. So that was kind of the only piece that I was like, really, if anything, I said, I'd really like for you to include a representation of what this looks like in the garden space, because that just kept pushing it back to like that theme of it, like a space all together, and then kind of like their assessment. But she has a few pages where she also made a cycle. She drew it out. So
a cycle of what? Oh,
of how her, yep. So how her, and that really 100% came from the kids. I didn't even because I didn't even do it in my modeling. But one of them, you know how it is. One of them comes up with an idea, they do it. Then they're working in these small groups. They're showing, wait, how did you do that? And then somebody else is now like, well, I want to do that too. So it's almost like they inspire one another to keep adding components or to think more deeply.
But Marina, I can hear that happening in the classroom, but was it a struggle, or how did it happen online too?
How did it happen online? So like I said, I did some work with them in the mornings for the morning meeting. I did hold a morning meeting every morning. And it always involved some of the same things, routine based. So we always kind of like have like a mindful minute with like a breathing exercise. And then we just kind of have some conversation, and then it usually involved either like a guided writing or read aloud, or a live math lesson. So I think as we kept going along with this, and because it had the math in it, that's just kind of how we spent our last couple of mornings for the last couple of weeks going back with this. And then these kids, they all want to share their screen. Like that's like the fun. Everybody's always like, can I share my screen? Can I share my screen? So
well, because they're working, they're making something, right?
Right. Yeah. So they were sharing like in process too, which again, like made me really happy, because one thing I really hope for, growing writers is that they know that it's not always like what's at the end. It's kind of like the process and how you're making decisions through all of it, through the middle of it too. So that's kind of like how it happened. And then, like I said, I would have drop-in sessions, which aren't required, but kids were showing up because they wanted to learn how to do something.
You
And
would
a lot
let
of
them know when you were available, or they would
Yeah.
call you?
Yeah. So part of their protocol in the morning was like, they had every morning there was a survey with like the mood meter, which, you know, has them kind of like check in how you're feeling this morning. And they were able, if they wanted, to say a little bit more about why they were feeling a certain way. And then there was always like kind of like a schedule of extra sessions that I was going to offer, whether it was a math one or this. And I called them feedback sessions. I'd gotten that idea from a webinar I watched on building engagement with the kids. So instead of calling it office hours, which I don't think really makes sense for little kids to hear that language, you know, I called them feedback. And I had a lot more kids coming when I did that, which is what they had suggested would happen, because it doesn't sound like it's just about needing help. It's about coming in and working together. And really they were sessions where kids were working together, because a lot of times kids would ask me how to do something and I would really say to myself, okay, well, share your screen and I'll talk you through it. Or I would say, oh, so-and-so knows how to do that. Can you show them? And like I said, they really were a very eager bunch. So they'd be like, yes, I can share my screen.
Cool. I want to throw it to our panel here. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts they want to ask Marina at this point before we jump to the next student work?
I mean, you know, just as a parent of a second grader right now, I am amazed. Like, why I'm like thinking on the back end as the parent. Number one, I would love the assignment, because I enjoy doing those things with kids where they really got to my own kids, where they got to go run and grab stuff and really have a good time with it. And I feel that here. You know, the whole idea of like opening up choice, you know, to allow content like that waffle seed. And it's so interesting how this like breakfast theme occurred, you know what I mean? Like, and it, you know, and I think it's like different. Like, I mean, how many of them were eating breakfast, right, in your class? Like I was watching over my daughter's shoulder, you know, how many kids were eating a bowl of cereal or something while they were doing whatever they were doing. So it's really interesting to think like how that might have inspired some of these ideas. So yeah, it's really interesting. And then, like, just by the way, a third grader, you know, manipulating a picture like that, you know, I'm a high school teacher, so I'm totally blown away by all this, just knowing what they can't do. But that's pretty, right? Like, that's pretty interesting. Like, I mean, had you taught kids ever to manipulate pictures in the classroom, or like did that student just figure it out?
Well, I think they all had different skill sets, like from just their own experience. And we had started doing some, we're a Microsoft district. So we did start doing some work on Teams, probably around November. So like way before we even knew like what was going to happen. And then through that, they did have some experience with PowerPoint. And I mean, that would probably be it. I never really did that as a lesson. So I think sometimes they just play around with things too, and they figure it out.
Cool. Any other thoughts, or should we jump to the next student? Is that okay to show the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this student created the awesome plant, and even when I was so even when I was like looking at the cover the first time, I was like, I wonder where they're going with this. And let me say, so we have our table of contents, and this person included, you know, images from Google. So, you know, there's certain things that I reflect on too, that I'm like, well, things I want to work on, like, as, you know, in terms of like, if I do, you know, when I do this again, or anytime the kids are looking at pictures, I want to make sure that I start teaching them, you know, about using pictures from and photographs properly with giving credit and everything. But
would you mind reading that?
Yeah. So the discovery of the awesome plant. So one day a girl was walking. Suddenly she saw a plant, an unusual plant. She asked for love and she got love. She asked for happiness and she got happiness. The girl called it the awesome plant. So that's her little story of how this was discovered. And then we have how you plant an awesome plant. So they're easy to plant. You sprinkle them carefully onto your plot of land. It's just like decorating an ice cream cone. Next, you put some dirt on top of the seeds and you are done. Just don't forget to water them. So, one thing that I did share with them at some point, I was like, sometimes, people add in tips with like how to do this really well. So I guess she was listening for that one. But I thought this page was really cool that she developed the colors of the awesome plant. She said for this, so first of all, she got 4 images on this page. They're all different sizes, but the layout looks really nice. So this doesn't have like a tool in it. Like PowerPoint has like a designer feature, right? So it can like make your slides super fancy and format your picture, but this doesn't have this. So there was definitely some tinkering here. So the colors of the awesome plant, an awesome plant depend on how well you take care of it. It is black when it is not cared for. It is red when healthy, and white is when it's thirsty. And then there's more thinking around that. So fun fact, an awesome plant cannot die, but cannot always flower. So, and then here is some of the math thinking. And that was pretty much it. So the thing
what is the sound there? Was that anything or not? Do you know?
I don't know.
I am dedicating this book to my family, my best friend Leah.
Okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. So this was a cash plan. So table of contents. So lots of things to look for. The cash plant was an endangered plant species until a man saw it in a desert. Then he picked and became rich. Then he told everyone about the cash plant, and people all over the world became rich, and the cash plant was no longer endangered. And that is how it was discovered. So yeah, so, some of them have like the full format. Some of them are still works in progress. Some of them did different formats and how they
Seeds are
decided to lay things out. Okay. Here's the money. This is what the seeds look like. Just so everybody knows, you can plan your money and get more.
Good to know.
Some of our math thinking down here. So, yeah, so they're all different. The end, it's that easy. So I think the more and more they kept sharing with one another, the more they kept getting ideas, or they were like, well, I want to do that. Like I've said that before, but the last one I think I selected because this student actually started to do some of the, sorry, I know I'm going quickly through this one, but I think they're all pretty similar, but this one actually started playing around with the tools, the drawing tools and labeling. And so the student did that on this one. And then also here, okay, that's in the way. So a different way of including their own original artwork, math, thinking. So well, that's pretty much it. They're all kind of like that.
Very nice.
Lovely.
So thoughts from anybody? From Marina?
I just want to say again, it's like to see a set of student work is, well, first of all, it's a personal gift to me to have seen how this work got taken up and kids got to use it and what they did with it. So I just want to say thank you for that. But I want to say again that the way that you put this assignment out in the world in this very open way, as you were showing more and more examples, I just thought how important these moments are where kids can be recognized for expertise. And across these books, you saw like sample sentences that you might want to like pull up and say, look how this person made these sentences in parallel structure, so they kind of build on each other, and like other people could do that. Or look how there are 4 images on this page and they're not all the same size, but this layout has turned out so lovely, and can you tell us how you did that? And there's like this whole space for every kid to get recognized for something great that they did in their book. And who doesn't want to take the floor when people are cheering them on and clapping or oohing and ahhing about their work. And I felt like the openness of this assignment, you can name a whole bunch of standards that kids met, or you know, they all got their perimeter and area right, so nice work. And they could imagine why you'd need to know perimeter and area, and they really thought about that in terms of how much room does each of these plants need to grow, and it's all of that. But then layered on that is this like this beautiful space to be an expert at something, to show your personality, to make people laugh or be moved emotionally, or whatever it is that you want to, you know, how you want to impact the community that you're in. So that's what a joy.
Thanks.
Judy, do you want to jump in or not, or it's up to you?
Sure. I'm sorry, I had another call, so sorry I'm late, but I would just say that everything Tanya did so well, I would echo. And, a long time ago, I taught 3rd graders, and what was exciting to me was to see the range of, you know, their topics, and then how they thought about what they wanted, and they all had a way to take their idea and go to the next level. It never was flat. It never, they took it somewhere, whether it was the waffle plant, and none of them would be plants I would have thought of either. So it's like, see those and I imagine if the online libraries continue, you could share those libraries with other teachers somehow. I was wondering about that for like the future of our online schooling explorations.
Yeah, I think that they, you know, they like I said, we're a Microsoft, but I know with Google, you just join in and you get your own virtual library, but they joined my library with the codes. So I'm sure like what they hold on to, they can decide to put a book in a joint library with a class and make a text set and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff. I want to spend more time this summer exploring it, and maybe I can connect with I'm sorry, I wrote her name down. The other teacher, you know, and work through it, because there's so many other things that you could do with this. It's just another way for kids to share their writing with one another and give purpose and meaning to what they're putting down on a piece of paper, whether it's a drawing or their words. Or they're speaking, because they can put video in there too, and audio.
Yeah.
I'd like to say one other thing too, which is from the probably the least techie person to join Teachers Teaching Teachers from my point of view. I've been listening to elementary school teachers sort of suss out how to teach online and how to engage kids online. And one thing I don't want to skip over in the sort of beauty of these electronic books was this moment where you had everybody online and said, we're going to do this thing, grab your notebooks and sketch. So it's the fact that you haven't forgotten that kids have access to a whole bunch of creative tools, including their notebooks and crayons and pens and pencils, whatever, that they eventually made these things that were electronic resources, but that they were able to draft and sketch and think on the paper, and I assume hold it up and say, this is what I'm thinking, or whatever. I'm really pleased to hear that you that it was so multimodal in from development through completion, I think.
Because I can't see you, Katie. I'm going to call on you again. You have any thoughts you want to throw in?
I mean, it's cool to see. Hold on, I'm trying to gather thoughts.
Okay.
It's cool to see like the different uses of the different tech. So like we're also a Microsoft county, but it's like cool seeing like other platforms being used, even though like we are only Microsoft. So just like seeing how we can intertwine the two is cool.
Marina, I just want to say that I really appreciate you sharing the students' work. I appreciate them giving, you permission to share their work. And our colleague, Caty Mae, she writes about how sort of being able to see the student work is really helpful in sort of reversing deficit thinking about what kids can't do, right? And so it's so important to see what they can do, and for them to be able to represent what they can do through their own, creations this way. And then in a similar way, I've been thinking about how, I think it was our colleague Bud Hunt said, let's not talk about school being closed. School isn't closed. Actually, school is just happening in these different spaces right now. And we have to be really careful about that, because then you can have this deficit thinking about what is school and what is, or not school. And, anyway, the politics of it can get really. And so I just was appreciating the way that you talked about, here are the things I would do face-to-face in a classroom, and here's how I thought about doing that in these online spaces too, because I still, the value of noticing each other's work is just still key, right? And the value of being able to have choice is still really key. And that everybody feels like they're valued and contribute something is still really key. So I feel like I just appreciated both, your articulation of how, like, okay, we're going to make these same important things happen, even though we're not in a physical space together, but we can still sort of figure out how to do this. So I don't know. I feel like I just appreciate that, because there's a lot to learn about how do you do those things in online spaces. So appreciate you sharing that too.
And the one more in that list is the teacher modeling for the students. That they saw your creative process over time. Was interesting too, I think.
Yep.
An emphasis on process in that, like
right.
That's really, like, I think what I enjoy when I do this with students, like just letting them see me muddle through it, I feel like eases so much anxiety, like that they know, like, oh, that if the teacher's muddling through it, that it's okay that I muddle through it, and that process, exposing that is, I appreciate that. And that's a really, I was wondering as you were doing that too, like, as we're online, like I always was thinking about how parents are watching. Were you aware of that? Were you aware of parents like tuning into what you were doing, and what was that like?
I mean, I figured that might be happening, and I don't think there's anything, I mean, I figured that here and there, like there were definitely like others participating in lessons, but I had a lot of like really good feedback. I think for the most part, I feel as though their families may have recognized that I was committed to making sure that they were enjoying the work that they were doing, especially given the situation so confusing for all human beings. I can't imagine being 8. And
I think it's so important too. Like I was thinking the same thing as I was. How can I give my students something that's like stress-free? And yeah.
Your sense of the fall in your school? Do you have any idea what's going to happen, Marina?
Oh, I don't know. No, I have no idea.
Okay. Are parents asking? You just had.
Yeah, I
you
think
went to
everybody,
exit top-
everybody wants to know. I'm in New York. I don't know. I think I mentioned that right earlier,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's any definite knowledge of what's going on in New York in terms of that. So
Mhm.
we're still waiting.
Cool. So in the last 5 minutes, I want to hit on another project you were working on, even though Joe Dillon's not here. I want you to mention it. What have you been doing in Minecraft?
Oh, yes, in between distance learning. Well, I connected with Joe as Paul connected us, and Joe was working on developing lessons for Minecraft that were connected to writing skills, and I don't know, I had a lot of fun. Like I don't know how to explain, it's so big, but I don't have any experience with Minecraft in terms of like playing it or getting it in that way. But I have always offered it. Like when I was in 5th grade, I offered it as a way, as a tool for building and presenting ideas. When we were doing like a civilizations. And so I let the kids use it, but I didn't really know much about it. So when Paul kind of shared with me some of the ideas that Joe was doing, and he was looking for elementary teachers, I was like, yeah, I would really like to try that. And I did some research on Minecraft, and I found out you can make a maze. So I kind of like played around on paper at Joe's suggestion with like developing like a maze idea with different points where not to get stuck in the maze, but kind of like you hit certain rooms in the maze based on Georgia Hurd's strategy, 6 rooms for description writing. But I think somebody is building, now somebody else is building it. Somebody's building it. I took a look at it the other day. It looks really cool. I can't play it.
It does look really cool. I mean, I could show it real fast. What I can't do is fly over top of it because I don't know how to. I just actually engaged the code builder, and I was like, "Oop, that was the wrong thing to do." But it's this enormous maze actually, and it's Molly Robbins' daughter who's building it. She's 19.
Oh.
And she's been building the maze. But should I show it real fast, Marina? Do you want to like?
Yeah, I'd like to see it in this way too, if you don't mind.
Okay, now I'm a newbie at Minecraft, so okay. So you show up in this garden, right? Can you guys see it?
Mm-hmm.
And this thing that says agent back here is what I just like made show up, and I don't know how to make it go away. So that's not usually there. So you can see that I'm like totally trying to learn how to do this thing. And so you go to the first NPC, which is a non-player character. And I know that Joe, he's working, there's supposed to be a camera and a notebook. And right now there's just a notebook. But the NPC says, as you travel through the maze, should I read it, Marina, or do you want to read it? Why don't you read it?
Oh, okay. There's also the immersive reader too. From being in a Microsoft person, I just wanted to mention that. So
yeah, immersive reader is pretty cool, actually.
I had no idea.
It's a Microsoft night. Go ahead.
As you travel through the maze, you will discover 6 rooms and meet friends. Each room is unique and will offer you some practice with ways to make your writing descriptive. You'll want to have an object or an image in mind. Need inspiration? Take a picture inside the maze if you like. Then begin searching for the 6 rooms.
Okay, so then you get your camera, and I could just teleport to the first room, which might be the better thing, but because I'll get lost in here a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you remember where it is? Maybe it's down here. Try this. So there's literally, it's literally kind of a complex maze. Oh, this is one of the dead ends. Yeah. And you really have to like walk around and try to figure out where things are. So it keeps you very engaged. Let's see. I probably should have teleported because I actually don't know where the room is. This could take us a while. Ah, found it.
That was appropriately difficult.
Yeah. So then you come into this room and there's sort of all these pictures on the wall. Where are the instructions? So there's different signs. What are the signs?
So Marina, did you design some of this and somebody else is doing the text?
So when Joe was saying about building worlds, I was like, I don't think I could do that. And like, he was like, no, get paper, do it on paper. Like, so I looked up a lot of I looked up mazes, I looked up Minecraft mazes, and I drew out on paper. And then once I like kind of had a maze idea, I started to think about like, okay, where would I like put these things throughout it so that it had like an entrance and an exit and some of these, twists and turns.
And then each room has like a different, so in this room, it's descriptions of what the reader sees. And in other rooms, it's descriptions of what the reader feels, right? Or the colors, or like every room kind of has a different theme like that, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to come back.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, when it's more done, we should definitely plan some time to come in here and play around.
Yeah. So this is a lighting room. So anyway.
Oh, that's it.
There's all these different rooms, all these different hallways with different textures, and it helps you in 6 different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool.
Cool. Thank you. I know you're going to do that. Very cool. So I'm going to stop us here tonight. I have invited Luis Balso on for next week. She on Youth Voices. If you go to youthvoices.live, there is a link to COVID oral histories, and those her youth are still tinkering with them. But what they did was they interviewed people back in their own countries about how they were dealing with COVID. In one case, a best friend moved to Florida. So she interviews her friend in Florida. So they're multimodal as well. So she's going to come on and talk about that. If you hear a series going on here, I'm trying to put this together. I think it's sort of like, work produced during the lockdown, right? So we're going to do that for the next few weeks. So thank you, Marina, for showing some of this.
Thank you, Marina.
Yeah, thank you.
That was great.
Great job.
Marina, it was great.
And Katie, welcome. Come back anytime you'd like.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Okay, good. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Paul.